Well, you are looking live here in downtown Houston at the Convention Center. I'm Josh Newkirk for Sam Webb here for the Michigan Insider. Today was media day, folks, and Sam and I were able to just go around, bounce around the different players and talk to them, talk to some of the coaches, get some of the insight, get their thoughts, get their process, what's going through their minds as they prepare for the biggest games, arguably in Michigan football history. Sam, I'm going to go to you first. Obviously, you talked to some guys today. Who's some of the guys that stuck out to you, and what did they say that sort of made you get this thing going?
Well, I spent a lot of time with the defensive backs. Started with Steve Clinkscale, one of the defensive backs coaches, because that's the storyline for this game. Michigan's defense against their offense. And specifically, these receivers who one of the media members, I mean, the hyperbole is thick. It's one of the media members, when you were in your session, came at and said, hey, yeah, this receiver crew is better than some NFL receiver rooms. So, like, come on, man. All right, they're good, but they aren't better than the receiving core that Clinkscale, he didn't say this, I'm saying it, that Clinkscale coached his DBs against a couple of years ago at Ohio State when they had Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Marvin Harrison Jr. was a freshman on that team. So my point is, and their point is, they've seen guys like this before. They respect them, but they aren't walking in here intimidated. You know what it reminds me of? A conversation I had with Mason Graham. Before the game, the Alabama offensive line, they were doing their intimidation tactics, right? Devin Gardner talked about it. He said, yeah, the linemen walking up and down Michigan sideline because they're like Hulks, right? And I can't remember which. I think it was either Mason. I think it was Mason said we just laughed. No, it was Josiah Stewart. So we just kind of laughed. Like, hey, man, we got to play this game between the lines. Like, we're going to see y'all when we get on the field. And what happened was Josiah Stewart bench pressed one of those big guys all the way back into the backfield. It's the similar mindset facing these receivers. They're really good, but these guys, they have a healthy respect, but there's just no, like, they put their pants on one leg at a time, man. That was Will's take. And, he said something. I won't share everything he said off the record, but it was like, man, I faced good guys before. I faced great guys before. I faced Marvin Harrison, there isn't a better receiver. He did say there's not a better receiver in the country than Marvin Harrison. He made some plays. I made some plays. Same thing here. He said it's a little bit different. He said the ball placement from this quarterback is different. So he said, I'm going to have to play the ball in the air a lot more in this game. Simple, man. He makes some plays. I'm going to make some plays. That's the kind of mindset that you want to see from these guys. You got to be willing to accept the challenge.
Yeah, it just, you mentioned Clink and the challenges. I talked to Will, I talked to Clink. They're well aware of how challenging, like you said, of this Washington passing attack. But a key thing when you talk to Jesse Minter and talking to Braden McGregor, they're well aware that you just got to put pressure on this Washington passing attack. Washington's offensive line has only given up 11 sacks this season. But as talking to Jesse Minter, says it's not necessarily about getting the sacks. It's about making Penix feel uncomfortable. Yeah. It's about getting those pressures, and that's why Michigan has been good. Even in games where they dominated earlier in the season, Michigan didn't have the stat line. Michigan had the pressure on the quarterback, and that's going to be one of those intangibles for Michigan on Monday. If they get the pressures, you're going to see a W for this Michigan football team.
Yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, pressure and coverage work together. They work hand in hand, but especially with a team like this, who part of what they do commonly is get the ball out quick. Your coverage has to give your pressure a chance. And so they talked about that. Now, there are going to be sometimes they are going to play up in the faces of these receivers all the time. So what do you do in those instances where you aren't, giving your pressure an opportunity more than a couple seconds to get there? Mike Elston talked about the approach. Mason Graham talked about the approach. He said, your rush lanes, being mindful of when they get the ball out quick, it could be quick game. It could be something coming right back at you. It could be a screen. Hands up, jumping in passing lanes. You think this part of your mindset when you're playing a team like this, but there is still going to be pressure. And this was one of the most poignant moments was with Mike Elston, who's been an outstanding defensive line coach for years. And one of his calling cards is player development. In Notre Dame, he had some 5 stars, but he had some 3 stars that turned out to be really, really good. So he's a guy that can really coach. He's been around some really good defensive coaches. And I asked him a pointed question. When I watch Jesse Minter and I compare him to past defensive coordinators, I compare him to guys across the country, an elite trait is the ability to attack protections. Not just players, but specific protections. To find a weak point in a protection. To coach unselfishness. Because, man, a lot of these plays really down to a guy like, so I'm here with you right now. If you're going this way into the camera, you're sacrificing yourself for me.
I'm sacrificing myself for TMI
you're
right now.
sacrificing yourself for me. You're screening for me so I can make the play. Braden McGregor said that was the case on this final sack. He said, I knew one of us was going to give ourselves up for the other, depending on what the tackle did. And he said it wound up being me that came free, but it could have very easily been the other. So A, attacking the protection with two guys, and then B, the guys being unselfish enough to buy in. And this is what Mike said. He said, my guys buy in. And he said, Jesse has done a great job of coaching the buy-in, but then just the skill set of the ability to attack protections, make the right call at the right time. He said, I've never been around a guy as good at those two things as Jesse Minter. And that's why it might not be as impactful, the pressure, as it was in the last game. I'm losing my voice. But it will still make it. It'll be more impactful than any pressure package Washington has seen this season.
I know one thing from talking to Braden McGregor, talking to Michael Barrett, talking to Will Johnson, and I pose this question to all of them. Michigan having a number one defense against Washington's top-rated passing attack, it's the games inside the games. These guys they want this opportunity. They want this challenge. They know that this is a legacy game. This is the type of thing that everyone's talking about. Who's the best? And how do you prove it? You go against the best. And these guys are up for this opportunity. Got to look for these interviews. We're going to be posting them all on YouTube today. These just a lot of good stuff from all these Michigan players.
Yeah, man. I was really taken with. We talked to Braden. We covered him in high school, and he made the sack to set the tone. Was Braden McGregor. The sack that kept Michigan in the game was Braden McGregor. Yeah. Huge plays, like ready for your moment. It's at the end of his career. I talked to Quentin Johnson about the same thing. And his frustration was much the same. I know you talked to Donovan Evers. I want you to get to that.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a theme. Talking to a guy like Braden McGregor, who you're buying your time. He talked about being behind Aiden those years and being injured and having the frustration of, man, when is it going to be my time? Well, are you ready when your time comes? And this dude made huge plays in that game. Huge plays in that contest. And Quentin Johnson, the big hit in the Ohio State game, and then the strip. Now, they wound up not missing the field goal.
Still was timely.
But it was a timely, he stopped the possession.
Yeah.
Right? And he said, we were talking about frustration being a human emotion. How do you deal with it? And he said, I've learned to feed on frustration. So he said, I'm frustrated right now. Because I find frustration. I seek frustration. Now, because it's part of what makes me go out and do what I do. It's part of what makes me continue to work to be ready for the opportunity to rise to the occasion. And this has got to be the mindset for a guy who I know we both know for a long time, who you talked to in Donovan Edwards, who we know Donovan is frustrated. We know that. I've talked to him this season. But he's a team guy, so that frustration isn't impacting the team.
Yeah, so going over right at the end of the media session, Donovan Edwards was taking his usual questions. And, we all know Donovan is a team guy. He was thankful for, hey, I've won 3 Big Ten championships. I've made it to the playoffs 3 times. We're playing for a national championship. Gave all credit to God. I get it. He's a team guy. But hearing him, seeing him, we've seen Sam and I have had the pleasure of watching Donovan develop as a freshman at West Bloomfield, going through the camps, tours, seeing his development. We know what we've seen on the field this season is not the Donovan Edwards that we're used to seeing. We know the guy that we were expecting to see was the guy that carried this Michigan rushing attack against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship and against TCU. This guy has been frustrated. I simply said, Donovan, how frustrating has it been knowing that you haven't accomplished the stuff that we're used to seeing through the years. And he said, I'm glad you asked that, Josh, because it has been frustrating. This kid, he admitted, I've gone through a lot. I've gone to counseling, everything. He goes, he knows what he's capable of, and he's always expressed, I am capable of doing great things, and he knows that he just hasn't done it particularly this season. And it was just refreshing to hear. I wanted to ask a couple follow-ups to cut us short, but it was just refreshing to acknowledge a guy that we know has, in my opinion, star potential, admit the frustrations that he's gone through this season, but still being a team guy first.
So think about that, though. And think about the guys who have similar stories. Trente Jones. I did an interview with Trente Jones last week that if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. That was a frustrated guy. Trente Jones has immense potential. Trente came in as an All-American. Trente sat the bench for 3 years. He earns the starting spot. He gets injured. He loses the starting spot.
Yeah.
The season is over. The guy who he would step in for is gone, and they get 2 transfers to come in, and then he loses the position again. You talk about frustration, but mentality, mindset, culture, all of these things permeate this program in a positive way. And it's why I say this culture that Jim Harbaugh has built is unique, especially in the transfer portal era, because like Trente Jones, like Quentin Johnson, like any of the guys who have big time talent, but have had to, Braden McGregor, have had to wait their turn. They didn't let their personal frustration impact the team. And that is Donovan. Donovan is one of the most positive guys on this squad. Donovan is one of, when positive things, when success happens, he's the first guy cheering. You can be frustrated and be fulfilled by the team's success at the same time. These are okay things. And that's what this coaching staff has done a really good job of nurturing. Hey, man, it's okay that you're frustrated with you not getting that carry or you not getting that touchdown. But as long as it's not about you, that frustration doesn't become a team thing, it's fine. We'll work through it and you'll have your opportunity. And all these guys know that.
Well, we all know that, we don't know if Donovan's coming back or not, but we all I think you feel similar to me, that Donovan's a guy, you just keep feeding him the rock. He just didn't have those opportunities this year. He's always getting about 5 to 7 carries. If he's a guy that can get 15 carries, maybe 5 catches out of the backfield, you're going to see some substantially improved numbers, and then you can see an improved draft set.
It's a great point. He is very much a rhythm player. I know this about him. We talk. I've had conversations with him about it. He's very much a rhythm back. Not all backs are like that. I remember talking to Tyrone Wheatley about it. He doesn't believe in the notion of rhythm for a back. I mean, some guys are different. He was a great one. He's the greatest I've ever seen on Michigan high school history. He didn't need a bunch of carries to get in the rhythm. Donovan does. And so when he started rolling last year, it was when he could get those continuous touches.
Well,
those continuous carries.
And guess what? When did those big runs happen? The fourth quarter, guys. So, listen, sometimes it does take a little rhythm. Sometimes it takes to see, this is how this team's defending me. He just doesn't get that. We're all hoping that he gets that opportunity next year.
But don't cancel.
I'm not canceling him.
What I'm saying is don't cancel the possibility of him impacting this Washington game.
Agreed.
In a huge way. Even if it's not running the football, like this team, and Board just talked about it. Go back and watch the previews. Wheel routes, rails. Donovan, any route in the running back route tree, he can run. You send him on a rail, you send him on a wheel route, and he's caught on a linebacker or a safety. Even a corner. I like that matchup and have a feeling based on that breakdown with Borges that running backs in the receiving game, and put Blake in there too, big 4th down catch, that could be a factor in this game. So don't rule Donovan impacting this game in a big way. Don't rule that out.
All right, Sam. Well, is there any other last notes, tidbits you want to throw in there? If not,
I just think that we've seen the formula. I'm going to sound like a broken record. I don't know what it is about this Michigan team that people keep trying to find reason to downplay their success. First, it was Bama was fantastic. Bama, you aren't going to be able to block them. Oh, you aren't going to be able to cover them. And then when Michigan beats Bama, it's, oh, but this is not a vintage Bama team. Well, which is it?
Right.
Which is it? I mean, is Bama good or are they overrated? You keep moving the finish line on this Michigan team. Now you get this national championship game, and it's, oh, they're facing the NFL receiving corps against the NFL defensive line, NFL linebackers, NFL defensive back, NFL coaches. I mean, why are we to think that Michigan is anything but up to the task?
Again, I feel like it's another example of almost like this Michigan defense getting disrespected and getting overlooked. They definitely were against Alabama. No one talked about them going in that matchup. But going in this Washington game, everyone's like, Michael Penix, fear, 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 fear. What about what Michigan's defense has done? No one's really implored their will against Michigan's defense. I can't think of anybody.
Right.
So again, it's the best against the best. And,
Yeah.
you know what? I like Michigan's chances here.
Yeah, and Michigan is the team that plays complementary football.
Yeah.
Now, do you get caught playing Washington's game? Washington wants to go. They want the game to have a certain pace. And I'm not just talking about pace on offense. I'm talking about the game itself. They want it to play fast. Michigan wants a more deliberate style in this game. They got caught last year playing TCU's game. Now, it wasn't because of style, it was because they got down. They had turnovers, they got down by a few scores. And Michigan controls the style of this game. I think they win by double digits. Now, I think they win either way. But I think if they do what I think they're going to do with the run game, and this is the biggest stat, this is my key stat. The Michigan rushers for 200-plus yards in this contest.
Oh, it's a wrap.
They win by double digits.
Easily.
All right, so mark this down. We're going to come back because leading up to the Alabama game, I said Michigan's going to win this game 27-20. What did they win? What was the score?
Oh, gosh.
You could go check the tape.
I mean, I don't need to.
Go check the tape.
I don't need to. I believe you.
And so I'm telling you right now, if Michigan rushes for 200-plus yards in this game, they win by at least 10 points.
It'll be more than that.
Come back to
It'll be more than that. 200 yards, they win by more than 10 points. That means they controlled the clock, they controlled the tempo, and they limited Washington's possessions, which I think Michigan's going to be able to do all game.
Yes, blank name. I do think we see that. Absolutely, you're going to see the heavy package in this game. That's not even intel. That's insight, not intel.
All right. Well, hey, I know someone said, Sam, we need to save your voice. I agree. We've gone a little over 17 minutes, going into 18 minutes. We're going to call it. We're going to call it, guys, because, hey, we need to save this guy's voice. We got a lot of football to talk about in the next couple days.
Apologies to the my boys, the Scholars. They wanted me to come over and do the Alumni Association pep rally. Man, can you imagine me yelling right now?
No, not happening.
I wouldn't have any more. I can't do it.
We're going to go get this guy some hot tea, some honey, some lemon, and call it a day. But thank you for watching, and look for all our coverage and more on the MichiganInsider.com.